Live from Beit Shemesh and broadcasted around the world, you are listening to the From Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Nahum Kligman. Interviews and advice from Jewish entrepreneurs from around the world. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.
Welcome to episode 32 of the From Entrepreneur, and I have a very special guest today, Shmuel Veffer. Shmuel has been a longtime friend and a longtime entrepreneur. Maybe you don't know him, but you definitely have heard of some of his products, and I'm super excited to have Shmuel join us today. Shmuel, thank you so much for coming. I've been wanting to do this, since early on. So thank you for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here, and most of our relationship has been virtual, so I wanted to make sure when we were going to do this, I'd physically be here with you in Beit Shemesh, and it's great to be here. Thanks.
That's great. So where do you live, so that just people know?
Today we live in Yavnel, which is up in the Galilee, just southwest of Tiberia. It's basically cottage vacation country, and it's unbelievable. It's really a pleasure to be up there.
So when we talk about your villa, we'll dig in a little bit deeper into that. So first of all, I'll just lead off that Shmuel is the co-founder of Kosher Innovations. As you guys may have heard, the Shabbos lamp. We're going to get into that story. A lot of great stuff going on with Shmuel. So, but before we dig in, I just want to get a little deeper. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background? How'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up? I know you were involved heavily in Aish. So let's do that.
I'm originally from Toronto. I grew up there. I went to university at the University of Waterloo, and in terms of my secular education, my background's in math and computer science. I have a degree in mathematics, major in computer science and business, and I worked for many years as a management consultant in Canada. Not many, a number of years. I spent a year here in Israel. Actually, I was on the Woodges program way back when. It was a one-year work-study program. And
we're talking 80s,
1978. 9.
Sorry.
I go way back in the computer business. I started out in, first computer was an IBM 360. The millennials don't know that IBM was in the computer business, actually.
Right.
With key punches at university. And actually this phone I have here, we had a Honeywell 3000 in our computer.
Oh, that thing was huge.
It was huge. It had 3 megabytes of main memory. It was a $3 million machine, but could handle 100 terminals. But my OnePlus 2 phone here is probably 10, 20 times more powerful than that $3 million machine. So I started out in computers. In Israel, I spent a year in Israel. I worked in Tirat Carmel up near Haifa, which is the high-tech center. I worked there at Elsint doing research and development in developing nuclear medical equipment.
Ooh.
It was kind of interesting. This is way back with the Startup Nation.
Wow.
I remember they had a nuclear gamma camera that was based on a mini computer, a Digital Equipment Corporation mini computer, and some people may not know that at one point DEC was the biggest computer company in the world. It doesn't exist anymore. But they were going to convert it to a microprocessor, a microcomputer, which had just started happening. And my first job there was to actually write a word processor for the Intel 8086 chip, because it had just come out and there was no software for it. It had a line editor, if there's any computer people there. So I actually wrote a word processor for what was ultimately to become the IBM PC.
Wow. And this, just so people should know, this would be pre-Microsoft.
No, it was around the same time.
Around the same time.
Yeah.
But you were the first processor, word processor? Or?
I had to write, we had to write computer programs for this chip.
Because
there was no
operating
system software that Intel really provided other than a clunky line editor. So we had to write tools in order to be able to write our programs for it. So
wow.
That was way back when, Startup Nation. At any rate, I worked in the computer business in Canada after that in a consulting firm. Management consulting firm. And as a young adult working as a single person, to make a long story short, Aish HaTorah opened up in 1981 in Toronto. I was basically one of the first, if not the first student there.
Baruch Rabinowitz opened that? Or?
Baruch Rabinowitz was there, and your Rebbe, Rabbi Pinchas Winston, was one of my friends in Chavrusas. We were there at the same time.
Oh, amazing.
And actually, I'll continue. I'll mention Rabbi Pinchas in a little bit.
Excellent.
At any rate, long story short, I became Shomer Torah Mitzvahs in Toronto during the course of that first first year. I got very active as a lay leader, young lay leader. I met my wife, who was another student there studying. We got engaged, got married. That was all like busy year. And made Aliyah 6 months later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my wife came cold turkey. I'd lived here for a year. And I worked here. I was fluent in Hebrew by that point, and she had never been to Israel, and she decided she was going to come.
Wait, the
here.
first time she came to Israel was on Aliyah?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Special woman.
Wow.
She's adventurous. You have to be adventurous to be married to an entrepreneur, right?
That is true. That is true.
So we when we landed here, we went to Ulpan in Arad, and
Just what year was this when you made Aliyah?
83. 1983. We arrived. I took her to Ulpan to Arad. We spent the first 2.5 months there. We were supposed to be there for 5 months, and the senior partner from my consulting firm in Canada came on a visit, and he looked me up. And he was the senior computer guy in Canada at the point. He built the first commercial computer in Canada, the air booking system for Air Canada. Anyways, he came here and he said he's got some friends in Yerushalayim and they have a business. They were the official Apple and IBM dealership in Jerusalem, and they were expanding to Tel Aviv, and they said, come meet these guys. They're looking for somebody to help them out.
Wow.
So we came up, and there were no computer jobs in Jerusalem in those days, in the early 80s. It was either in Haifa or Tel Aviv. And we were all planning on going up to Haifa, and the hashgacha was, I got invited to this meeting in Jerusalem. 2 weeks later, we were living in Jerusalem. I'm running the official IBM and Apple dealership in Jerusalem.
Wow, this
was
is
a crazy
great.
story.
That is. I mean, this is great computer history of Israel. Also, I mean, Apple back then. What were they? That was the Apple II.
Yep. The Apple IIe.
2E.
And so we were selling apples, and
Were people buying? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, now obviously Israel's very high tech. Everyone has a computer, but back then people were into it, or
it was just starting. There were the people that were coming in, I want a computer for my son. And there were people like that. There were people finding an excuse to buy one because they wanted to play with it. It was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of money. And so we were selling to business clients primarily, word processing systems. That was when VisiCalc came out. When Apple came out with VisiCalc, the software spreadsheet, the first spreadsheet, then it became a business tool. So we were selling basically spreadsheet systems, and then the IBM PC came out, and we were selling those. And then actually, I had one of my claims to fame is I sold the first Macintosh in Israel. Yeah,
wow,
that was one of my claims to fame. We announced that there was a show in Tel Aviv, and I had a manager of one of the main hotels in Jerusalem come in one day and said, "My son's having a bar mitzvah. I want to." It was in Hebrew, right? My son's having a bar mitzvah. I want to buy him the best computer there is. So I said, you know what? I had already known about the Apple Lisa. The Lisa came out first, and we had bought one as the consulting firm in Canada before I made Aliyah, and it was announced here we had one in the showroom, but the Macintosh had not come out yet. So I said, listen, this thing's been announced. I said, if you want to see it before you buy it, you have to come with me to this conference and show in Tel Aviv. He met me there, and I took the order. So before we even had them here, he bought it.
Do you remember what it went for back then?
It was a lot of money.
A lot of money.
I mean, that was when hyperinflation was going on in those days. So it's hard to tell you how many shkalim it was, but it was at least double what it was in America. But
everything, still today.
So in those days in Jerusalem, I was married, and a lot of Aish guys from Aish Toronto, a lot of people had come that first year to come and study. And it's a who's list of Kiruv today.
Right.
And they came to study, and they were Bacharim. And our house used to be the sort of expatriate Toronto hangout couch, and
couch surfing before that became famous.
Yeah. So the guys used to come and hang out, and actually I used to have a tag with Reb Pinchas Winston. He used to come over once a week. He'd have dinner, and the condition was we'd learn together, and that's how he started. And he was telling me about his Jewish history research he was doing at that time, the unbroken chain of Jewish tradition. And he's showing me, like on the back of a piece of paper, napkin, like his whole idea of graphical representation of history. I said, computer can really do something about that. He said, really? Yeah. I said, come. And I brought him into the showroom where we had the Lisa, and it was the first graphical system before the Macintosh came out.
Right.
And we designed the whole timeline, and that was his first book, was a result of that. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I know Rabbi Winston, he taught in Neve for a little bit, and obviously Neve Yerushalayim.
Right.
And you and I have another connection because you're Mechatanin Rabbi Senior.
Right.
It's also a Rebbe of mine back in Neve in 1990, 1991.
Right.
So that's incredible. He's an incredible Rav, incredible person. Okay, so we go from the computer business. Now, how do we get from computer business to kosher innovations? But
well, first through Aish, how did I become a rabbi?
Oh,
you know, I was a business guy, right?
Right.
So I had a 21-year period there where I wasn't in business anymore.
Oh, you just stopped with computers?
Well, what happened was I was coaching all of the Aish guys. They'd come and when they were doing their programs, whether an outreach program or whatever it happened to be, marketing, they would come and I'd give them advice. And then after a couple years, Rev Noach, the Rosh Hashiva, sent somebody to basically ask me would I be willing to work at Aish full time.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big decision because, I had to decide, going to work from business and going to work for a nonprofit, you're basically putting a ceiling on your income.
Right.
It's a whole different world. And my wife and I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and we made Aliyah for idealistic reasons. And being from Baal Tshuva, pretty new in the business world in Jerusalem. Even Jerusalem was it was tough. Meaning I was the rabbi, and we got to sell the soup mix in the store, and people are looking at me. What are you talking about? It's
wow.
We're lighting candles in the showroom in Binyan Klal, and all those store owners would come. And here I saw an opportunity, even at the coffee machine in the office at Aish HaTorah. It was gonna be such a spiritual growth experience for me. And imagine I was with Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz and Rav Zelig Pliskin and all these people just hanging out, getting a cup of coffee in the offices. So that was a tremendous opportunity, and we saw it, and so we decided to do it.
And what'd you do there? You were a Rebbe there? Or?
Well, at the beginning, I was coming from the business world, and most of the other fellas were just coming up through the system, and basically I automated the entire office.
Oh, wow.
We set up a computer network. I set up email before people knew what email was all about, and cut the fax bills. The faxes were going back and forth, thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And we set up email and automated all the fundraising systems, and I did a lot of that. And then I started moving into outreach and help promoting the outreach. And eventually, when the Gvirim used to come and they'd want to learn a little bit, I'd get drafted. And then I basically went to the Rosh Hashiva. I said, why don't we set up a program, a Kiruv program for executives? And that became the Executive Learning Center.
Oh, wow.
And I said to the Rosh Hashiva, there's no monopoly on Kiruv in 19 to 25-year-olds,
Right.
You just have to learn how to speak to 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds differently, but they're just as interested. You just have to have a different environment.
Sure.
And in those days, nobody looked at it that way. And so that's what I did. And pretty soon...
These were executives that were coming on Israel trips, and
they were on vacation. Maybe they were donors. I want to drop by and see, we don't normally do a dog and pony show for them. And I said, why not let them experience it? So instead of putting them in a room full of 19, 20-year-olds and let them feel sort of silly and ignorant, I said, let's take them into a nice room, give them a cup of coffee with a plant over here, give them a text one-on-one, let's learn together. Wow. And because as a management consultant, especially in those early days, when you're trying to get a CEO to put a PC, a personal computer on his desk, he doesn't want to look stupid.
Right.
So we had, as 20-somethings, we had to learn how to empower and explain abstract ideas and get people up to speed with difficult abstract concepts without them feeling stupid.
Right.
That's what I did in the computer industry. So I just took those skills and transferred them into Kiruv.
Amazing.
And so eventually I got so much involved in teaching that I ended up becoming a rabbi.
Beautiful. You got smicha through Aish.
Got smicha through Aish, and went right after that. There was a lot of requests, and we ended up going to Toronto to help build the Village Shul community there. And I was there for 8 years with my family.
So this is when? This is 19...
We left. We were here for 13 years in Jerusalem working with Aish.
Right.
Then we went in 1998 to Toronto, and I was with Aish Toronto for 8 years.
Great.
Before we left.
Amazing. So then how did Kosher Innovations come into play?
So what happened was that while I was working full-time at Aish, we had 6 kids, Bli Ayin Hara, still do, thank God. And when you're in Kiruv, it can be all-consuming, and you don't want the kids to feel they're being left out. So I had my Palm Pilot. In those days, it was a Palm Pilot.
Sure.
And what I would do is with each one of the kids, I would schedule them in with a weekly appointment, just like I would anybody else. So they'd feel they're just as important as anybody else. And each one of our children had a weekly slot for an hour or two in my Palm Pilot. And each one of them could decide what did they want to do at that time.
Amazing. That's
so
great.
I used to do that.
A lot of people, I mean, I think that's an important lesson because as entrepreneurs, we're always busy. And we always say, okay, we're going to give time for kids. We'll give time for kids. But what you do, it sounds like a little bit, you have to give your kids an appointment. But yeah, sometimes if you don't take that action, you don't do that, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Especially on a consistent basis. So, kol kavod, and I think it's a fantastic idea.
So one of my sons, he liked to do projects. So he said, okay, it was Sunday morning. He had Sunday mornings. And I said, so what are we going to do? He said, I don't know. What are we going to do? So my wife gave birth to our first child 31 years ago in Shari Tzedek Hospital. And it was a Shabbos. And above each bed, they had a big box with doors in it, a fluorescent tube in there, and you could open or close the door on Shabbos because it's a Shomer Shabbos hospital.
Right.
And for years, I guess it must have been 20 years, she would say, can you make me one of those? Can you put one of those in the bedroom? I never got around to it because it's so big and clunky. So I said to my son, Shalom, why don't we make Ima one of those lamps? And we'll make her a lamp for Shabbat. And but we'll, I don't want to bolt it to the wall. And let's see if we can figure out how to do it on the night table, freestanding lamp.
Wow.
So we went to Home Depot and up and down the aisles trying to get ideas how we're going to do this. Bought all these different parts and it started out, I got a laundry vent, a dryer vent, air dryer that goes outside and it's like a louver thing that opens and closes. Yeah. Some styrofoam we got, some lamp parts, put it all together and open up the blinds, close the blinds. It worked.
Huh. Amazing. Do you still have this prototype?
That was long gone. It was made out of styrofoam. It wasn't so great, and it wasn't so halachically,
Oh, it wasn't
it wasn't the greatest. It wouldn't be Yotzi all the shitas. It wouldn't be all the opinions. So, but all of a sudden, everybody wanted one. Kids wanted one. This one wanted one. It's like everybody wants one. Okay, that's interesting. And then what happened was, so let's try and make a better model. Did that. And I saw, there's something going on here. And I said, I happened to have one of my congregants at the Village Shul in Toronto, Lou, was in the lamp business.
Oh, wow.
So I just said to him, I said, hey, Lou, I'm a full-time rabbi. I got this idea. Everybody wants one. I think it'd be a fun project to do. You've got the connections in China. You make lamps, bring your lamps into the country. If you want, we could do it as we'll partner on this project. He said, fine.
Wow.
And that's began the whole process of developing a prototype. And because he had a lot of goodwill in China with the factories, what would cost somebody a lot of money to develop a prototype, really the factory was willing to help us and work with us.
Wow.
And invest in bringing the prototype to market. And one of my other sons was into 3D graphics. And today he's somebody you definitely have to interview. He and Micah Smith, my son Eli Veffer, they're Shoot East.
Yeah. Of course, they're
doing amazing things.
Yeah,
so he was already at that time as a young teenager into 3D graphics, and we designed the whole kosher lamp in 3D and sent off the 3D drawings off to China. And they came back with the prototypes, and we went through a lot of different prototypes.
Right.
And I think this is something in terms of an entrepreneur, you always have to don't expect to get it right the first time.
Right.
And the early ones were more boxy and were big. And I said, this is really not going to work, especially in Israel, because it's taken up too much real estate on your night table. In Israel, we have very little usually, unless you live up in Yavnel, where we are. You get a little bit more real estate up there for your money. But it was bothering me. And it was clunky. We had boxes opening up with mirrors. There were different prototypes we came up with. And in our shul there, it's in a wealthy neighborhood. And when people would come in Toronto, in Forest Hill, and when people would come for Shabbat, they'd bring a bottle of wine, but often they'd bring a nice bottle of scotch as well. So I was sitting in my home office thinking about this problem. And I looked over on the shelf, and there was a cylinder of Lagavulin and another one of Glenlivet, 2 cardboard tubes. And I said, that's it.
Wow.
And I took out the bottles of whiskey. I took out an X-Acto knife. I cut the 2 holes in the 2 cardboard cylinders, put a light in it, twisted it, and that was it.
Wow.
That was the kosher lamp.
Wow. What fantastic. So then you took this prototype, you took this idea.
And my son did the 3D drawings. We changed it a little bit.
Sent it to China, got the prototypes.
Came back. Yeah. And then
And how was the initial market reaction? Like how did you order, how many did you order in the first batch? How did you get in stores? How did that all work?
I want to talk about olive oil. We'll get to that.
Oh, we'll get to olive oil for sure.
It's a long story. I had a prototype. I created a website. We did the magic. We got the prototypes, and I did the little spinning of the hand and watching the magic is very entrancing.
Right.
And so I set that up, and I had to get all the hashkachas. I had to get all the rabbinical endorsements. So I got the Marid Asr in Toronto, which was great. Rosh Shlomo Miller. Mm-hmm. He's got very big shoulders in the halacha community, which was fine. But the Americans didn't really know who he was at the time.
Right.
We went to an AJOP conference to show the prototypes, just to see what the reaction was going to be from the rabbis. And just everything exploded from there. It was really...
They just all loved it.
Yeah, there were a few rabbis who were there, gave their chaskama, and so we were good to go. And I got pre-orders from a lot of the Kiruv rabbis. They all wanted them. And from that point, as we pre-sold a lot of them before we even placed our first order.
And this is before Kickstarter, so you didn't really have...
it was a private Kickstarter campaign.
It was private, right.
So I had all these pre-orders. I think I might have had 700 pre-orders before we even put in the first order.
Wow, amazing.
And then there was a lot of hashkacha. Somebody approached us. He wanted to represent us in America, be a distributor. We made a deal, and the first container was bought before we even ordered it.
Wow.
So thank God.
Wow. I mean, it's such an incredible innovation. I know it's helped. We use it. Obviously, I think everybody I know uses it at some point. It's just such a fantastic use of technology that really makes your Shabbos better. It's just It's really a fantastic product. So kol kavod.
So that was what we did as a project. Then eventually, a while later, when we left Aish, I had to decide what am I going to do now. And I had the product. It had made some money. Thank God. Helped pay for our first wedding.
Right.
And I said, well, maybe there's a business here. You can't make a business out of one product, really. Right. So I said, maybe there's a business here, and put in some effort, give it some time to see if there's a business here. And came up with all these other ideas. The second invention was the clock.
Right, the Shabbos clock.
Which had the multiple alarms. And then we took a trip to China, which was a lot of fun.
Who's we?
My partner, Lou and I.
Lou and I, okay.
And we went to China, had a few other ideas just to see what was being presented there. We wanted to visit our factory as well. And that's when I came up with the idea for the Shabbos toothbrush and the bug checker. It was a lot of fun. It was a big, busy few years. And from that, we were able to set up a company, Kosher Innovations.
Amazing. But then you ended up leaving the company to make Aliyah again.
Right. We always saw going back to Canada as a temporary thing.
Right.
It ended up being longer than we had hoped. It ended up being 11 years. And what happened was when our youngest graduated from high school, then that was the opportunity to leave. We didn't want to really leave until she had finished high school. So she actually figured this out and finished high school a year early because she wanted to come back.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and then when it came time to come back, it was really in those days, it wasn't going to work split with my partner there and us here. It had to either all come here or all stay there. And then eventually we worked out a deal where it all stayed there. And we were going to build a new adventure, new chapter.
So, okay. So, Lou takes over Kosher Innovations. You moved back to Israel and you were in Beit Shemesh for a little while, right?
Yeah. We came to Beit Shemesh at the beginning and we were there because we were there. Originally, we started at Har Nof and we sold that apartment like a lot of people did when we made our first wedding.
Right.
And bought something else in Beit Shemesh.
Right.
Even though we weren't living here at the time, we wanted to keep our foothold in Israel. Mm-hmm. So it was the best place to invest at the time in 1998.
Sure.
And so we rented it out while we were in Toronto. And when we came back, that's where we started. And we were there for about only 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was about it.
And then where'd you go?
Well, what happened was we decided we didn't really want to be there in that particular neighborhood where we were. And my son-in-law had been the distributor for Kosher Innovations in Israel.
Oh, okay.
And when we sold the business back to my partner, the distributorship went with it, and we had to decide what are we going to do next.
Right.
And my son-in-law was interested in real estate, and I said, let's set up a real estate agency. which is what we did. We both got our licenses. We did that. And, I always, in business, you need to have two partners. This is my recommendation. You really need to have two partners. Your first partner is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Second partner is somebody that's going to force you to keep the schedule and get it done. You need, you have to be, right. I need it anyway. A lot of people, it's very difficult to be totally self-motivated. Sure. Very difficult. When you have a partner, you're responsible. Your partner's responsible to you. I said, but the first one you need is a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeah.
So I would always, whatever business I'm doing, I'm trying to factor in a way, how am I going to push God's agenda forward?
Right.
So I saw the future of jewelry in America, being there in the trenches, and we got to get the Jewish people back here. And for a lot of people to make Aliyah cold turkey, like my wife, or even after a lot of visits, it's difficult.
Right.
And I understood if you can get people to get a foothold, an investment, they're vested, that's going to be a first step to coming in. So we set up a real estate company to offer the opportunity for people in Chutz La'aretz to invest in properties here, either
That's
for
smart.
move in or whatever. And we were doing that all over the country.
Oh, wow.
We sold in Beit Shemesh, in Yerushalayim, in Netanya, in Modi'in. I had a client that wanted to go to Tveria, in that area, agricultural property, and we went up there. I hadn't been there for 20 years. I said, you know something? Something's happening up here. So when we decided to sell our apartment in Beit Shemesh, where are we going to go? My wife and I are empty nesters. We can go wherever we want.
Right.
We considered Modi'in. We considered Netanya, but in both those cases, it would have been trading up. We wanted to trade down if we could, or at least sideways. And we got up to Tveria. We found, and in Tveria, we were going to get we could get a nicer apartment than we had, plus a second one to be able to rent out for an income property for the same price as Ramat Beit Shemesh. And then eventually we found a property up there that had the income on site. It was a 3-story villa, 3-story house, large property, Bli Ayin Hara, and it had 3 vacation rental units on the main floor called Zimmers in Israel. And I looked at the numbers from the previous owner who was selling, and the numbers, meaning I would have spent the amount of money just to get the income.
Right.
So basically, I was getting a house for free. I was buying a business. I was buying a business, getting a house for free, or buying a house and getting a business for free.
Right.
So my wife loved the house. We were in vacation land up there. Bli Ayin Hara family's growing. From family, you need to get a bigger house when you get older as opposed to getting smaller. And you want all the kids and the grandchildren to come. So so thank God. So we've been up there and running it as Zimmers, Villa Rimona. We cater to the Anglo crowd. And again, as an entrepreneur, I always try to encourage people to focus on a niche. Don't try to be everything to everybody. You can't. You can't compete with everybody. So we focused on the English-speaking Shomer Shabbat crowd. And we try to make it as comfortable for that crowd. Everything is in English. Our business cards have no Hebrew on them. All of our promotional materials, no Hebrew on them. And we produce tour materials to help them know, where can I go? How do I get there? Can I have coupons? And so that's what we did.
Beautiful. So you have this business set up, and now let's talk about olive oil.
Right.
Galilee Green.
Galilee Green.
Right. So let's talk, how did that come about? What is it, and what's your goals with it?
So the idea is, after spending so many years in Kiruv working as a rabbi, you don't have a lot of savings. So there's a lot of catch up to play. Running a Zimmer business, it's a service industry, and it's not scalable.
Right.
Unless you buy more properties and manage. And it's not, as a young person, maybe if I was 30, I might have considered such a thing. My age, you have to sit down and try to construct your business so it's going to fit your needs. That's my approach. So I said, okay, I want to have a continuing income, an ongoing income. And I had a certain number in mind. And I'm a believer in low tech. In high tech, the reason why I became a consultant is the technology changes so quickly. If you're tied to hardware or software, this business, there's a very short life cycle. So that's, as a consultant, I don't want to be tied to the technology. And I believe in low tech businesses. And there's another reason why I believe in low tech business. I believe in creating value. And just move pixels around on a screen, get people to pay me for some ideas. Kadosh Baruch Hu put us here to change the world, right?
Right.
So if I can produce something, people's lives are changed physically because of the kosher lamp. I want to produce a product that's going to add value to the country. So I had the experience of helping some people pick some olives We live in the Shevet Naphtali, the tribe of Naphtali. The blessing for Naphtali is the most amazing, luscious fruit, vegetables. This is the out of all of the Holy Land, this is the holiest place to nurture food up there. And you just feel it. It's incredible. And I had the opportunity to pick olives and turn it into olive oil. Have my own olive oil. It was the most incredible experience and nothing like I've ever tasted. It's really incredible. You have this idea of what you think olive oil is, but when you have this fresh produced extra virgin olive oil from the fruits up there, there's nothing like it. So that was unbelievable. Now, I have a neighbor, the Abrahams, also expatriates. No, Neely and Arnie, also from Canada. They also had the same they did the same experience independently. And the community there can use some help financially. And we were always thinking, how can we help the community? The local population up there.
Sure.
And our first idea was to create a nonprofit organization around the olive oil, collect tzedakah, and use it to support the local cheder, Tomchei Shabbos, help out families for food for Shabbos. We did that for a year, logo, the whole thing, website, and it fell apart because of income tax reasons in terms of issuing tax receipts. It was very complicated to do it online.
Interesting. Okay.
So we had to shut down.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, but this idea is too good. So what we said is, you know what? Let's just turn it into a for-profit, all extra virgin olive oil business, and we'll make the money and we'll give it the tzedakah out of our own money.
Right.
I mean, you can do the same thing with a for-profit or a non-profit.
Sure.
Each one has its advantages.
Well, again, just to be clear, because, Eretz Israel is known for its olives, known for its olive oil. Olive oil was already, exported. It was already, you could already get it all over Israel. So why, it seems like that you're looking for a niche. But what was your niche? What made you think that, hey, what are we doing differently, or what do you have that's different than what else was out there that you said, hey, this is a business to go into?
First off, we don't produce enough olive oil in Israel to satisfy the local needs.
Really?
There's not enough.
We
import olive oil.
We import olive oil.
We import olive oil. There's not enough. There's a
Wow.
huge dearth of extra virgin olive oil in the world. The demand far is exceeding the supply.
Interesting.
And that's why there's so much fraud going on. There's 60 Minutes just did an episode recently about Italian olive oil fraud and how the mafia is involved in terms of cutting it and putting in it's not really extra virgin olive oil. So that's there isn't a lot of Israeli olive oil out there in the world.
Really?
There isn't. So our concept was to market olive oil to people who love and support Israel. Our primary market is not the Jewish community. 90% are non-Jewish lovers and supporters of Israel. That's who, and what we decided to do is let's market to them. That's the niche. And we're going to give them not the olive oil, but the olive oil is the connection to the Jewish people who are back in the land. We want to give them a personal connection with the people, the land, the place. And that's really what we're offering. We're offering this connection. Now, what happens is most people, they create a website and then they have to figure out how we're going to monetize this.
Right.
You know all about that.
Yeah.
What we did is we figured out, okay, we're going to monetize. We know how to monetize. This is what we're monetizing. We have our monetization thing. It's going to be the olive oil. Now, let's build it with social networking. It's the reverse of what people are doing today.
That's a great idea.
So we used social networking to build the business. We used the social networking to get advice on the colors to choose for the logo.
Getting people involved.
We got them involved from
making
the
them
very
feel
beginning.
they're partners, that they're part of a movement, that they're part of something.
Exactly. So that's how we've built the company, slowly and steadily and surely. Meaning we produce recipes on our website with Galilee green olive oil, showing people how to cook healthfully, and also Israeli recipes. They love it. They want to give me I want to have the experience. I want to know what it's like to live in Israel.
Amazing.
What real people are like. We share them recipes, but you know what? They get the olive oil, they make their recipes, they post their pictures, they send it to us, we put back up posts. I send out Divrei Torah, either mine or other people's, and they comment on it. It's this, they call it a family. It's the Galilee Green family we're creating for them, and we're their family in Israel.
Fantastic. So you mentioned me before the interview that you actually can't buy Galilee Green olive oil in Israel.
Right.
So I have to actually leave the country to buy this oil from you. I mean, besides the gift you gave me. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
And actually, we're going to give away, in our next giveaway, we're going to give away some of this Galilee green olive oil to some lucky winners. So look out for more information on that.
Right.
But so you can't buy it in Israel, and that was a marketing.
That's a conscious decision. We can't compete in Israel. There, you go to the supermarket. How many brands of olive oil are there, and what are we going to compete on? There are good olive oils here.
Right.
So you can't compete with everybody. It's not going to work. So, and then you have the VAT problem.
Right.
Because everything that we're selling is coming from orders from outside of Israel and being exported, we don't have to deal with VAT, which keeps our pricing down. The second thing that we did is we're using the subscription model,
right,
which had to do with my financial goals. I want to have a subscription. I don't want to have to go and resell every single time.
Right.
And that's what's happening in the computer industry. All the software companies are going to that model, and we made a decision. We're going to use that model with a tangible product, because that's how we're going to monetize, with the tangible product.
Fantastic.
So people subscribe, and we ship out every 90 days to our subscribers. They get their gift set with a free decanter. There's a beautiful glass decanter to put their olive oil in. And then we send out the refills each and every 90 days, which gives us lead time for surface mail shipping.
Sure.
See, if I sell on my website, I have to ship it out right away, and I have to get it within 2 weeks. Otherwise, they're upset.
Right.
So I have to send it out express mail. It's expensive.
Yep.
If I sell a subscription model, I can time my shipping
with the subscription
and save a huge amount of money through Israel Post.
Amazing.
And that way we make it economical. So they can buy our subscription, let's say a triple subscription in America, and it comes landed in this beautiful gift box with a free gift inside. We send out a different kind of free gift each time. And it's cheaper than if they bought their olive oil in a boutique, Californian boutique olive oil in a store in America.
Wow. What a great story. And very smart. And yet a subscription model is something that is huge and a credible model to follow. And it seems like you're doing some really amazing things with it. And I guess, people obviously love the product.
They love it. They love it.
So let me ask you, okay, so that's what you're doing now. And do you think about bringing out other products that would sort of go with olive oil, or maybe a different, like a garlic olive oil type thing, or to come out with, just expand the line? Because as you said before, just having the one, if I know you, just having that one, kosher lamp is not a business.
Right.
So what's in the plans?
Right. So the first step is you have to have your distribution network. That's what we're building now. And we're not at the point, critical mass, where I'm comfortable introducing another product. You don't want to have lots of SKUs in your business.
Right.
I
learned that in the apparel business.
There you go. Right. Exactly. You don't want to have a lot of SKUs. So you have to keep it simple. You have the product, build the base, and then you can feed the system. A challenge we have in this distribution network is the pricing and the cost of shipping. So you have to have a product that has a big enough margin in it,
right,
in order to be able to fit our model. And there aren't that many consumables. So we have some ideas, God willing, they're in the plans, but in the meantime, we don't really need it right now. So we're staying focused on the one brand and flavor of olive oil.
And just, I don't know if I asked before, but you own the olive trees, or you're buying the olives? You're buying, how does that work?
Right. So we're private branding. We're doing it with Degania, Kibbutz Degania. They have the olive press. That's where we did it originally. And we worked out an arrangement with them that they, again, when you're starting up a business, you have to keep your costs down.
It's very smart. That's what, in our last episode with Daniel Geffen, we talked about that, outsourcing the hardest part so that you could focus on the sales and the marketing.
Right. Because especially when you're in the food business, Misrad Habriyut, Ministry of Health.
Right. Kashrus.
Misrad Habriyut, the Hechsherim.
Right.
It's huge overhead. So if I can joint venture with somebody who's already paying for it and they're going to private brand for me my product,
right,
it's much smarter. And as you scale up,
we
wouldn't be able to do it. So we made it. We have a beautiful relationship with them.
Brilliant.
They've been very helpful. They believe in us, and we're basically marketing their oil to Chutz La'aretz, which they're not able to do.
Brilliant. All right, Shmuel, this has been absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk, hear the whole, the beginnings of the Shabbos lamp. I think that's fantastic. Never knew that before. And there's so many great business lessons here. A lot of hashgacha pratis, over the years. So, thank you again for joining me on the show. And I look forward to continued Hatzlacha, and we're gonna send out these links to everybody. Everybody could check the show notes, and we'll show you pictures. We'll send you links, and again, look out for the being able to win some of this olive oil. And again, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the From Entrepreneur Podcast with Nahum Kligman. We hope you learned something valuable, and we'll share this with your friends. For show notes, archives of previous episodes, and more information to help you start and grow your business, please visit our website, www.fromentrepreneur.com. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.